the city that shaped ancient Greek history. You've heard of Athens and Sparta. But what if I told you that a far less famous city, Argos, was crucial to Greek history? You might be scratching your head, wondering where Argos fits in the grand tales of ancient Greece. After all, when we think of the great Greek cities, our minds often leap to Athens, with its philosophers and grand democracy, or Sparta, with its warriors and strict military code. Yet, nestled in the fertile plains of the Peloponnese, Argos quietly played a pivotal role in shaping the course of Greek civilization. This ancient city, with roots going back to the Mycenaean era, was not only a political and military force, but also a cultural hub that left an enduring legacy in art, architecture, and mythology. So, why haven't we heard more about Argos? Perhaps because it never quite became the cultural symbol that Athens or Sparta did, or maybe it was overshadowed by the grand narratives of war, philosophy, and democracy that defined those cities. But make no mistake, Argos was a major player in the ancient world, and its story is filled with power struggles, legendary heroes, and remarkable cultural achievements. Argos was situated in the northeastern part of the Peloponnesian Peninsula, a region rich in history and political intrigue. Its location, in the fertile plain near the Gulf of Argos, made it a natural hub for agriculture and trade, giving it economic power and influence. Argos was among the oldest cities in Greece, with a history stretching back to the Bronze Age, long before Athens or Sparta had risen to prominence. In the Archaic period, around 800 to 480 BCE, Argos was a powerful city-state, rivaling Sparta for control of the Peloponnese. Argos enjoyed its golden age under the leadership of King Pheidon in the 7th century BCE, a ruler who was said to have expanded Argos' territory and reformed its military, introducing the Hoplite Phalanx, a tight infantry formation that became the backbone of Greek armies for centuries. However, unlike Sparta, with its famously rigid militarism, or Athens, with its groundbreaking democracy, Argos never developed a singular identity that would define it in history books. Its legacy was more diverse, touching politics, culture, and religion, but without the dominance that would enshrine its name in the annals of world history. One of the key reasons Argos faded from the spotlight is that it was surrounded by powerful neighbors who often overshadowed its achievements. Athens was the beacon of philosophy, art, and democracy. Sparta, on the other hand, was feared and admired for its military prowess and strict societal structure. Argos found itself in an awkward position, too powerful to be ignored, but not strong enough to dominate either of its famous rivals. In the 7th century BCE, Argos was a force to be reckoned with in the Peloponnesian region. It even managed to defeat Sparta in the Battle of Hyceia around 669 BCE, a significant victory that demonstrated its military capabilities. But despite this, Argos would soon struggle to maintain its influence as Sparta's military machine grew stronger, and Athens' cultural dominance solidified. During the Persian Wars for 99 to 49 BCE, when most Greek city-states united against a common enemy, Argos remained conspicuously neutral. This decision, while perhaps pragmatic at the time, led to Argos being politically isolated in the aftermath of the wars, as Athens and Sparta emerged as the leading powers. Argos' refusal to participate in the wars became a historical footnote that, while understandable, limited its role in the most famous conflict of ancient Greece. So why has Argos slipped through the cracks of popular historical memory? One reason is that it didn't produce the same kind of lasting political structures that Athens or Sparta did. Athens, with its creation of democracy, and Sparta, with its military oligarchy, left indelible marks on the political landscape of the ancient world. Argos, on the other hand, maintained a more flexible political system, which evolved over time, but never created the kind of model that later civilizations would emulate. Additionally, much of what we know about ancient Greece comes from Athenian sources. Athens was not only a cultural and intellectual powerhouse, but also a prolific producer of historical records. As a result, the accomplishments and contributions of other Greek cities, like Argos, were often underreported or overshadowed by the grand achievements of the Athenian democracy or Spartan military conquests. Argos also lacked the dramatic historical narrative that cities like Athens and Sparta boasted. While Athens had the Peloponnesian War and the birth of philosophy, and Sparta had its heroic last stand at Thermopylae, Argos' history is more nuanced and less centered around defining moments. Instead, Argos quietly influenced the development of Greek culture, religion, and military strategy, playing a key role in the background of history, rather than at the forefront. The city of Argos has a history that stretches back thousands of years, long before the classical Greek world we often think of today. Mycenaean Argos was a prominent center in the Bronze Age, associated with powerful kings and epic tales. It is mentioned in the Iliad, where its warriors fought in the Trojan War under the command of Diomedes. Even after its decline in military power following defeats by Sparta, Argos maintained its influence, especially in the Hellenistic and Roman periods. The city adapted to changing political landscapes, becoming a significant center for Roman culture in the Peloponnese while maintaining its unique Greek identity. Roman emperors, particularly Hadrian, invested in Argos, building monuments, theaters, and public baths that helped the city thrive under Roman rule. Argos may not have been at the center of every major Greek event, but its longevity and adaptability make it a fascinating case study of a city that persisted through countless shifts in power, culture, and politics. Argos in mythology. Argos holds a prominent place in Greek mythology, and no figure is more associated with the city than Perseus, one of the most famous Greek heroes. Perseus is best known for slaying Medusa, the Gorgon whose gaze could turn men to stone, and for rescuing Andromeda from a sea monster. However, his connection to Argos runs even deeper, as he is considered a royal figure of the city and, according to legend, was its founder. Perseus' grandfather, Acrisius, was the king of Argos, and it was from the city that the hero's legendary journey began. The story goes that Acrisius, upon hearing a prophecy that his grandson would one day kill him, tried to prevent Perseus' birth by locking his daughter, Danaus, in a bronze chamber. However, Zeus, never one to be easily thwarted, visited Danaus in the form of a golden shower. Yes, Greek mythology is full of such strange events and fathered Perseus. After his birth, Perseus was sent away, but he eventually returned as a hero. While Perseus didn't directly rule Argos, his legendary feats made him one of the most celebrated figures in the city's lore. In fact, it was through Perseus that Argos became linked with other important Greek cities and regions, as he was said to have founded Mycenaean, another prominent city of the Peloponnese. While Perseus may be Argos' most famous hero, the city also had a deep connection to one of the most powerful gods of the Greek pantheon, Hera. Hera, the queen of the gods and the wife of Zeus, was particularly revered in Argos, and her temple, the Heraion, was one of the most important religious sites in the ancient world. The Heraion of Argos stood just outside the city and was a major center of worship for the goddess. The sanctuary was monumental, with grand columns and statues dedicated to Hera. Argos became a significant location for Hera's worship, which was a bit ironic considering her complex and often stormy relationship with Zeus, who was also connected to the city through Perseus. Argos held an annual festival in honor of Hera, which included sacrifices, processions, and athletic competitions. This festival not only reinforced the city's religious importance, but also helped unify the community through shared cultural and religious activities. Hera's connection to Argos was so strong that she became the city's patron deity, making Argos a spiritual center for her worship throughout the Greek world. Argos really had the full package: a hero who slays monsters and a goddess who's not afraid to unleash a little divine wrath. Talk about keeping things interesting for the locals. Another important myth connected to Argos is the story of Danaus and his daughters, the Danaids. According to legend, Danaus fled to Argos from Egypt with his 50 daughters after a conflict with his brother, Aegyptus, who wanted Danaus' daughters to marry his 50 sons. Reluctant to give in to his brother's demands, Danaus fled to Argos, where he became king. The most chilling part of this myth comes when Danaus instructs his daughters to kill their husbands on their wedding night, fearing that Aegyptus' sons would eventually take control of his kingdom. All but one of the Danaids, Hypermnestra, obeyed their father and murdered their husbands. As punishment for their crime, the Danaids were condemned in the afterlife to eternally fill a leaky jar with water, a futile task that represented the endless nature of their guilt. This dark tale reflects the often complex and morally ambiguous nature of Greek mythology, where even heroes and kings could be driven to commit terrible acts in the name of power. The story of the Danaids was deeply tied to Argos, symbolizing the city's ancient and sometimes turbulent role in the mythological landscape of Greece. Argos is also woven into the fabric of Homeric epics, especially the Iliad and the Odyssey. Though much of the action in these stories centers around other famous Greek cities, Argos still plays a significant role. In the Iliad, Homer frequently refers to the Greeks as Argives, a collective term that points to the city's historical and cultural significance during the Trojan War era. The city's warriors, led by Diomedes, are among the most heroic figures in the Iliad. Diomedes, king of Argos, is portrayed as a fearless and wise leader, second only to Achilles in strength and prowess on the battlefield. He is the one who wounds the gods Ares and Aphrodite during the war, a feat that highlights the heroic stature of Argos leaders in Homeric lore. In the Odyssey, the city of Argos is mentioned again, though more subtly, as part of the backdrop of the Greek world to which Odysseus longs to return. Argos' place in these epics underscores its influence and prestige in the broader Greek imagination, even if it doesn't always stand front and center. The rise and fall of Argos during the early stages of Greek history. Argos was one of the leading city-states in the Peloponnesian region. It enjoyed a period of significant military power, particularly under the leadership of King Pheidon in the 7th century BCE. Pheidon is credited with transforming Argos into a regional powerhouse, both militarily and economically. He introduced reforms that helped organize and strengthen the Argive military, and his most famous contribution was the development of the Hoplite Phalanx, a formation of heavily armed infantrymen that would become the standard for Greek warfare. The Hoplite Phalanx was a game changer for Argos and, later, for other Greek city-states. With soldiers arranged in tightly packed rows, each man's shield protected not just himself but also his neighbor, creating a formidable defensive and offensive unit. This new form of warfare allowed Argos to dominate its rivals for a time and led to notable victories, including the famous Battle of Hyceia around 669 BCE, where Argos dealt a rare defeat to its rival, Sparta. Argos' military prowess during this period established the city as a significant player in the Peloponnese. Its strength was not only in its soldiers but also in its leadership, with King Pheidon credited for having expanded Argos' influence far beyond its immediate borders. While the Battle of Hyceia was a high point for Argos' military reputation, it also marked the beginning of a long and difficult struggle against Sparta. Despite defeating Sparta in this battle, Argos was unable to maintain its dominance over the Peloponnese. Over the next few centuries, Sparta would rise to unparalleled military strength, and Argos would find itself increasingly overshadowed by its southern rival. In the years following Hyceae, Sparta rebounded quickly, and Argos soon found itself on the defensive. The Spartan military machine, with its highly disciplined warriors and rigid societal structure, proved to be a formidable force, one that Argos could not match in the long term. By the time of the Peloponnesian Wars for 31 to 400 for BCE, Argos had fallen behind both Sparta and Athens in terms of military power and political influence. Argos' efforts to maintain neutrality during some of Greece's most significant conflicts like the Persian Wars also contributed to its marginalization. While Athens and Sparta were carving out spheres of influence and forming powerful alliances, Argos' attempts to stay out of the fray left it politically isolated. Over time, the city lost much of its military edge, though it continued to play a role in regional conflicts, often allying with Athens against Sparta. Argos' political position during the Persian Wars was particularly interesting. Unlike most Greek city-states, which united to face the common threat of Persia, Argos chose not to join the fight. Its decision to remain neutral, possibly due to ongoing tensions with Sparta, had long-lasting consequences. After the Greeks' successful defense against the Persians, Argos' neutrality was seen by some as a betrayal, weakening its standing among the other city-states. However, Argos did attempt to regain some of its influence during the Peloponnesian War for 31 to 400 for BCE, aligning itself with Athens in the conflict against Sparta. While this alliance showed Argos' willingness to challenge its old enemy, the city never fully committed to the war effort in the same way that Athens or Sparta did. As the war dragged on, and with the eventual defeat of Athens, Argos' political influence in the region continued to wane. Despite these setbacks, Argos maintained a certain level of autonomy throughout these conflicts, avoiding direct conquest or occupation by more powerful states. This resilience speaks to the city's ability to adapt and survive, even in the face of political and military challenges. By the time of the Hellenistic period 323 to 31 BCE, after the death of Alexander the Great, Argos was no longer a dominant force in Greek politics. The rise of Macedonia and later the Roman Republic shifted the power dynamics of the ancient world, leaving cities like Argos to adapt to new political realities. While it never regained its earlier military strength, Argos remained culturally and religiously significant, particularly as a center for the worship of Hera. During the Roman period, Argos experienced something of a revival. The Romans were fascinated by Greek culture, and Argos, with its ancient temples and rich mythological history, became a center of Roman tourism and religious pilgrimage. Roman emperors like Hadrian invested in the city, building new public works and restoring old monuments, ensuring that Argos would continue to thrive as a cultural hub. Though Argos had long since faded from its days of military glory, its ability to survive and even flourish under Roman rule is a testament to its resilience. The city may not have been the great political power it once was, but its cultural and religious significance kept it relevant for centuries. Argos under Roman rule was like a retired athlete who's now a successful commentator. Sure, its days of glory were behind it, but it was still important and people still paid attention. Cultural contributions of Argos might not have had the political clout of Athens or the military might of Sparta, but it was certainly a force to be reckoned with when it came to architecture. The city was a major contributor to the development of the Doric order, one of the three main architectural styles of ancient Greece. The Doric order is characterized by simple, geometric lines and sturdy, no-nonsense columns, which gave Greek temples their timeless, majestic look. Argos' influence on the Doric style helped shape the way Greek temples were designed throughout the ancient world. One of the most famous examples of Doric architecture influenced by Argos is the Heraion of Argos, a temple dedicated to the goddess Hera. This grand temple, located just outside the city, was one of the most important religious sites in Greece, drawing pilgrims from all over the region. The temple's design reflected the clean lines and balanced proportions typical of the Doric style, a visual language that would go on to influence Roman architecture and beyond. Although not as famous as the Parthenon in Athens, the temples and public buildings of Argos were highly respected in their time and contributed significantly to the evolution of Greek architectural aesthetics. Argos was also home to one of the largest and most significant theaters in the ancient Greek world. While we often think of Athens as the birthplace of theater, Argos played a key role in the development of Greek drama and performance. The theater of Argos, built into the hillside, could seat as many as 20,000 spectators, making it one of the largest theaters in ancient Greece. The theater was not only a place for entertainment, but also a stage for political and cultural expression. Greek tragedies and comedies filled with themes of morality, war, love, and the human condition were performed here, bringing both mythological tales and social commentary to the people of Argos. It was in theaters like this one that citizens could engage with complex ideas about justice, leadership, and the gods, making these performances an integral part of public life. Additionally, Argos hosted the Nemean Games, one of the four major athletic festivals in ancient Greece. The theater and the games were central to the cultural life of the city, offering a blend of competition, entertainment, and religious devotion. When it comes to sculpture, Argos was home to one of the most important schools of sculpture in ancient Greece. Argive sculptors were particularly renowned for their work in bronze, and their innovations helped elevate Greek art to new heights of realism and expression. One of the most famous sculptors to emerge from Argos was Polykleitos, who worked in the 5th century BC and became known for his canon of proportions, a set of ideal mathematical ratios for the human body that influenced the art world for centuries. Polykleitos' most famous work, the Doryphoros Spear-Bearer, is a prime example of the classical Greek style, where sculptors aim to represent the human form in its most idealized and harmonious state. The influence of Argive sculptors like Polykleitos extended far beyond the borders of Argos, shaping the way that artists throughout the Greek world and later, the Roman world approached the human body in art, beyond bronze. Argos was also known for its marble sculptures and decorative arts, which adorned temples, public buildings, and private homes. The city's contributions to art helped establish a standard of excellence in Greek sculpture, particularly in the way artists captured movement and emotion in their figures. Polykleitos had such an eye for perfection, he'd probably have a lot to say about the selfie culture of today. Angles matter. People, Argos was not just a city of visual art and architecture, it was also a center for music and performing arts. The city regularly hosted festivals in honor of the gods, most notably the Heraion, a festival dedicated to Hera that included not only religious ceremonies but also music, poetry, and athletic competitions. Music was a key element of these festivals, with lyres, flutes, and choral performances playing a central role in the celebrations. In fact, musical competitions were common at these festivals, with musicians from all over Greece coming to Argos to compete. The people of Argos took great pride in their musical traditions, and the festivals helped foster a deep cultural connection between the arts and civic identity. Music wasn't just for entertainment, it was a way to honor the gods, express civic pride, and engage with philosophical ideas. These cultural celebrations reinforced Argos' position as an important artistic hub in the Greek world, even as it struggled to maintain political and military influence. Argos in modern Greece. For much of history, Argos remains somewhat forgotten, overshadowed by the fame of cities like Athens and Sparta. However, The city's rich past began to come to light once again through archaeological excavations in the 19th and 20th centuries. As archaeologists unearthed temples, theaters, and public buildings, the significance of Argos as one of Greece's oldest continuously inhabited cities became clear. The rediscovery of ancient Argos helped fill in the gaps of its historical and cultural contributions, particularly in areas like architecture and art. Excavations revealed impressive remains, including the Heraion of Argos, one of the largest sanctuaries dedicated to Hera, as well as the Argive Theater, which, with its massive size, stands as a testament to the city's cultural importance. In addition to these monumental structures, archaeologists uncovered a wealth of artifacts, including bronze statues, pottery, and inscriptions, all of which help to piece together the story of Argos' long and complex history. These discoveries have allowed historians to better understand Argos' role in the wider Greek world, from its Mycenaean origins to its role during the Roman period. Finding Argos buried under centuries of dust was like discovering an old family photo album in the attic full of surprises and a few awkward statues. Today, Argos is a thriving city, though it may not attract the same number of tourists as Athens or Santorini. However, for those interested in ancient history, Argos offers a fascinating glimpse into the past. The archaeological sites of Argos have become key attractions, drawing visitors who are eager to explore the city's ancient theaters, temples, and public spaces. Tourism has allowed Argos to reconnect with its historical roots. Sites like the Argive Heraion, the Larissa fortress overlooking the city, and the Argive Theater are all popular with history buffs and casual tourists alike. Guided tour and informational plaques help modern visitors appreciate the city's contributions to ancient Greek culture, from its architectural innovations to its deep connections with Greek mythology. Argos has also become a popular destination for educational tour and archaeological field trips, as students from around the world come to study the city's ancient ruins. In this way, Argos serves as both a historical landmark and a living classroom, where visitors can learn about the past while walking through the remains of one of Greece's most ancient cities. Argos is the perfect destination for history lovers who've already done the Athens thing and want to say they visited the underrated gem of ancient Greece. Argos' influence may have faded in political and military terms, but its cultural legacy has endured in ways that continue to shape the world today. Many of the architectural principles pioneered in Argos, especially in the Doric style, laid the groundwork for not just Greek, but Roman architecture, which in turn influenced Renaissance and neoclassical architecture across Europe and the Americas. Modern cities around the world have drawn inspiration from ancient Greek architecture, and the simplicity and elegance of the Doric column can be found in everything from public buildings in Washington, D.C., to museums and memorials across Europe. Though Athens and the Parthenon often get the credit for this architectural style, Argos was a major contributor to the development of the Doric order. In addition to architecture, the artistic innovations of Argos, particularly in sculpture, have had a lasting impact. The mathematical proportions established by Polykleitos, the Argive sculptor, became the standard for Western art, influencing everything from Renaissance statues to modern art forms that emphasize balance and proportion in the human body. Though Argos may not have become as famous as Athens or Sparta, it represents a powerful symbol of cities that play crucial roles in shaping history, even if they've since been overshadowed. In many ways, Argos reminds us that history is full of unsung heroes, places, people, and cultures that were essential to the development of civilizations but didn't always get the recognition they deserved. Argos was a city that thrived for centuries, surviving political upheavals, wars, and shifting alliances. Its ability to adapt from the Mycenaean period to the Roman era shows the strength of its people and its culture. This ability to endure makes Argos a symbol of resilience and a reminder that sometimes the most important players in history aren't always the most famous ones. For modern Greece, Argos serves as a connection to its ancient roots. It embodies the layers of history that make Greece such a fascinating place, a country where ancient ruins sit next to modern cities, and where the stories of gods, heroes, and kings continue to resonate. Today, Argos is a bustling modern city with a population that lives alongside the ancient ruins that dot the landscape. While much of its ancient glory is confined to archaeological sites, modern Argos is a vibrant community with a rich cultural life. The city balances its historical importance with its role as a contemporary urban center, offering a unique blend of ancient history and modern amenities. Residents of Argos take pride in their city's long history, and efforts to preserve its archaeological sites are a major part of the local culture. At the same time, Argos continues to grow and evolve, serving as a reminder that cities, like people, can change and adapt while still holding on to their past. With festivals, events, and ongoing archaeological projects, Argos is a city that honors its legacy while looking to the future. For visitors, it offers a chance to see history up close, to walk the same streets as Perseus and Diomedes, and to appreciate the enduring beauty of its temples and theaters. Final conclusion: Argos may not be the first city that comes to mind when we think of ancient Greece, but it is undoubtedly one of the most fascinating. From its early days as a powerful city-state, through its rich mythological connections with heroes like Perseus and gods like Hera, to its remarkable contributions to art, architecture, and theater, Argos played a pivotal role in shaping the cultural and political landscape of the ancient world. Its history is one of resilience, adaptation, and creativity, even if it has been overshadowed by more famous cities like Athens and Sparta. What makes Argos so interesting is how it thrived quietly, influencing everything from military tactics to sculpture, without the fanfare that surrounded its more celebrated neighbors. In a sense, Argos represents the unsung heroes of history, those places and people who don't always get the credit they deserve, but without whom the world wouldn't be the same. Argos teaches us that sometimes the most important players in history are the ones working quietly in the background, shaping events in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Personally, I find Argos' story captivating. Before researching in depth, I knew only the basics about the city's association with Perseus and its rivalry with Sparta, but I had no idea just how influential it was in areas like art and architecture. Learning about Argos has been a journey into the lesser-known corners of Greek history, revealing how much we still have to uncover about ancient civilizations. From the innovations in Doric architecture to the legacy of Polykleitos sculptures, Argos was truly a city of hidden power. Now, I'm curious, did you know about Argos before reading this? Do you think it deserves more recognition in the grand narrative of Greek history? Share your thoughts, I'd love to hear your perspective.
By my side, intense, strong, no fear to face, nowhere to hide, intense. I subscribe to this channel, click like today, because content like this just lights my way, intense and slow.